was separated, so they can keep him in the mausoleum. Dean goes to check the death records, like the county records, which apparently are just gonna go back to 1912, no problem.
Probably.
Sam is doing the cliche, like, eyelash thing. I've seen this in so many shows, and I think it's cute every time.
Where you have, like, an eyelash on your face or something.
Yeah, and they go, oh, like, here you have an eyelash, and then they'll, like, make a wish, and it's so sweet. Alex Karev pulled this move in Grey's Anatomy, and it's one of the things that made everyone like Alex Karev.
I forgot that was a thing.
Sorry, what did you say, Frances?
I said I definitely fell in love with Alex when he did that.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, gentlemen, listen up. This is the only, like, thing that actually works.
Sarah looks so cute with her, like, little braid pigtails. And the two of them talk, and they're like, they decide that they like each other, but Sam's really hesitant. He says, this one he actually says people around him get hurt physically. I think this is the first hint of the alleged curse.
Dun dun dun.
We will get fully into the curse at some point, because when we get into, like, season 11, I think that the curse is pretty canon with once we get into some of the Chuck stuff. I think that Chuck being Chuck confirms that the curse was real. Sarah says that she's a big girl and her choice is hers to make, and he should not be trying to make it for her. He says that he can't go through that pain of losing someone again. But before we can explore that thought any further, Dean's got the records and Isaiah was buried. And then, yeah, cut to them. They brought Sarah to dig up the grave. I would have left her at home, but that's just me.
I think it's a cute date activity.
She's holding the flashlight, a little perturbed by how comfy that they are digging up this grave. Sam makes this silly joke about, oh, like, do you still think I'm a catch? They go back to Evelyn's to get the painting, and they're just gonna bury the painting to be safe. Dean stays in the car in case they need to make a quick getaway, which they really did, but it was a bad idea for him to stay in the car. Or a good idea, I guess. And he cranks up the soft rock slow jam on the radio. He really wants Sam to make a move.
Oh gosh.
In Evelyn's house where she just died. Super not the time or the place. So weird. That's even weirder than having the painting in your house, is then, like, expecting Sam and Sarah to get, like, spicy where Evelyn just got murdered.
I mean, it's Dean, so he's desensitized. He's probably done it before.
Probably. The painting is now missing the little girl and the razor. Adopted daughter is the murderer, not the dad.
That's the other trope.
Yeah. The girl closes the door, or the door closes, locking them inside and Dean outside. We now see Melanie and her doll. She is, like, slow on the approach with her razor.
Before we saw her, there was, like, creepy giggling in the background.
Yeah, it was scary.
And then we see her and she's dead serious.
Yeah. Sam, like, grabs the fire poker. There's a whole scene there where Sam is, like, looking for stuff. Looking for salt, looking for iron, just, yeah.
It's not as great as he wants it to be.
Melanie was already cremated, obviously, because we saw her remains. But Sarah remembers that antique dolls used to use real hair. Good thing Sarah was here. And so Dean is on a race to the mausoleum to burn the doll. Sam gets knocked over by a desk, which is really bad for Sarah, who he was protecting with the fire poker. Dean gets to the mausoleum, and then he's using his gun as a hammer before remembering to shoot the glass. This had very much, like, Harry Potter, are you a witch or not vibes.
I love it so much.
I'm really slow to make Harry Potter references, like, these days, but this, like, was immediately what I thought of, like, where he was just like, oh, I could shoot the glass. Dean's lighter is faulty for dramatic effect. I can't believe that Dean carries this lighter all these times, and, like, it's so hit or miss on whether or not it works, depending on whether or not they need dramatic effect.
It's just the way everything is.
Sarah straight up almost gets murdered, but at the last second, both doll and ghost go up in flames, and she reappears in the painting. Sam and Sarah are not getting out of the house fast enough. Like, they literally, like, take a minute to, like, collect their breath and, like, stare at the painting, which is hanging over them. If it was me, I am up and gone as soon as I'm no longer, like, fighting for my life. As soon as I'm safe, I'm out of the house.
I bet Isaiah's giving her a stern talking to.
I hope so. Cut to the next day, and Dean has more records. Melanie was adopted by the Merchants after her birth family were all murdered in their beds, so this was, like, not Melanie's first full family murder.
Suspicious.
Melanie Merchant was portrayed by Jodelle Ferland, who played Bree Tanner in Twilight Eclipse, and Jodelle actually had a second role on the show in season 15 as a witch named Emily alongside Keegan Connor Tracy, who's played no less than 3 total separate characters on the show.
Oh, cool.
It's just really fortuitous that Jodelle Ferland is here in season 1, and then the next time she's back is like mid-season 15.
I think I also remember the first actress, the little girl. What was her name?
Jodelle Ferland.
Thank you. I also remember her from Dark Matter.
Yeah, I believe she was in that as well.
Yeah.
Sarah asks a worker who's like coming by to just straight up burn the painting. Which was amazing. Sam says that Melanie was just born tortured and that's why she hurt other people and then herself. This is a very different attitude for Sam to suddenly take. We've been having this running dialogue this whole season about what makes a monster, and Sam's immediately like, she was born that way. Which felt very odd for Sam, but Dean is like quick to throw in like, oh, maybe that's what happened. I don't know. I don't really care. Let's move on. Like, the ghost is gone. Who cares? Because again, there's this darkness within Sam and their family as a whole, and it's hanging over them.
It's like, I don't feel like thinking about it right now.
Dean leaves Sam and Sarah to say goodbye, and it's a little salty that he saved them and Sam's getting the girl. Although not really. You can tell he's just, like, performing at that point. It's performative salt. Sarah says she's still in one piece. Maybe Sam's not cursed after all, and he can come back and see her.
Oh, sweetheart.
A couple of things here. It's gonna take most of a decade. I also think that Sarah could have been a good hunter. I like her so much. Sarah and Cassie are 2 of the best people that we've met so far.
Yes.
But I think that they would have been really good people for them to have like contact with. Like, Cassie was a journalist. Sarah knows all this stuff about antiques, which would be super useful.
Yes.
Like, I just feel like that would be helpful.
Yeah, I want, like, more nerdy hunters.
Sam comes outside, but then he goes back to the door so they can finally kiss. Dean sees the whole thing and he's so proud. He's like, that's my boy, and then he gets in the car. We don't even need a wrap-up scene after. They just fade to black on the kiss. Like, there's no talking in the car about the kiss after, or about, like, Sam being disappointed. But we all know it's just like, the kiss is good, fade to black.
Woohoo!
So, on to some weekly segments and panels. Total death counts. Let's start there. This week we saw 3 deaths, bringing our on-screen total to 141. And the on-off-screen total for this, I get a little creative with the math.
Okay.
We had the 5 merchants. Melanie's original family, I'm just gonna count 2 for that, for her parents, because they don't say if she had biological siblings or not. And like, a family can totally just be like the 3 of them. So 5 and 2. And then there are 3 other murdered families that we don't know how many that is. Average family size is 3 in North America. So I'm gonna count that as 9 plus.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then plus the 3 on-screen victims, that gives us 19 plus, and the on and off-screen total is now 918 plus.
Wow, so Melanie's one of the busiest criminals we've had on this show.
She has more, assuming that, I didn't get too creative with the math, that's more than the Benders.
I'm kind of proud of her.
I mean, Dean and Sam say it in the episode, like, who's gonna suspect a sweet little girl of murdering her whole family, like, twice?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think she should, like, form some sort of dark partnership with Missy Bender.
Honestly, Missy Bender and Melanie Merchant, Children of Night. We also tried to nominate an MVP of the week, so let's see who everybody would like to name. Let's start with Frances.
The MVP for me is definitely Sarah. Because she came out of nowhere, and Sam was, trying to date her or whatever in the beginning, whatever Dean was trying to get her to do. And then she ended up being, like, the most resourceful.
Yeah, she was really helpful.
She really was. And she, like, was so into it, too. She was like, okay, cool, monsters are real. What are we gonna do now? Let's go attack this thing.
I love that. Julia, who did you nominate?
100% Sarah.
Sarah.
She got real cool with the hunting thing real fast.
Meredith, how about you?
Yeah, I think I'll go with Sarah as well, because I'm a very big fan of, like, using your history knowledge to hunt.
Wow, I split mine between 2, and neither of them were Sarah, and now I feel bad, because I love Sarah.
I was gonna say Dean, but then everyone started saying Sarah, and I think that's a better choice.
I split mine 50-50 between Dean and the librarian.
Yes!
I was just so happy for that guy. I hope that he found something good to do with his life now that somebody actually asked him about the merchant family.
I mean, he seems to like his job.
Yeah.
Let's put this episode to the Bechdel test. Did we have 2 named women in this episode?
Yep.
Yeah, we had Sarah and we had Melanie Merchant.
We had Mrs. Teleska.
Oh yeah, and Ann Teleska.
We had Evelyn.
Oh, and Evelyn. I forgot about Evelyn too.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of good ladies.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them got murdered, but They were present and they had names. Did they talk to one another?
Not really.
They communicated, but talked, no. I feel like Melanie and Sarah made their dislike of one another well known.
Yeah, they had quite the moment.
But I would say no. So that's a no on the Bechdel test. But Sarah was so awesome.
Melanie talks with her eyes and her knife.
And as far as villains go, Melanie was quite good.
She was.
Yes.
This week's case of the week was a ghost in a painting. I don't know. I know Meredith didn't have a lot of time to do research, but maybe she did some?
I wasn't able to do research on haunted paintings, but I did pull up an article about Victorian mourning dolls.
Okay. Yeah, the dolls were, a big thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to see, like, how common it was to actually use, like, real hair for a doll.
I feel like pretty common. What did the internet say?
It was. If a child died early, they would use, like, their hair to make a doll that looked like them. It was like a mourning doll, and you would lay it at the grave of a deceased child.
I feel like we're still kind of doing that. I don't know if you've ever seen those reborn dolls.
No.
Oh my god, they scare the heck out of me.
Good.
What? What?
They're called reborn dolls, and they look exactly like a real life baby. If you see one, unless you are like looking to like, you'd be like, why is that baby not breathing? Like it literally looks like a new. Look it up.
I'm good, thanks. I'd like to sleep.
Right. But some people who have like had like who have lost like babies or had miscarriages or something like find a lot of comfort in them, and I think that's very nice. And some people just like to collect them just because. But yeah, like they're like a big thing. And they scare me. But
actually, going back to hair, I do know that Victorian mourning customs were actually very interesting. I highly recommend researching them. But there was one custom where you would use the deceased person's hair and make jewelry.
Yeah.
And it's a lot less weird than it sounds. It's actually very beautiful jewelry.
I love that.
It's like very intricately woven.
I really enjoy mourning customs. Like, I just think they're really interesting.
Yeah, especially in the Victorian era, because they got really into their mourning customs.
But yeah, thank you for that, actually. That's actually super interesting and not the angle I would have taken with my research, but I'm glad that you did. Because actually, I think the dolls were actually a big deal in this episode, and I kind of glossed over it.
I was going to look up some haunted paintings, but didn't have the time.
I'm sure that exists.
They do.
I got some information about haunted paintings in cinema.
Thank you. Yes,
please.
go for it.
So in all the research that I was doing, there was like lots and lots of lists of like haunted paintings that have been used like in movies and shows and whatnot. There's been like stuff from just like horror movies. Then there's also the paintings in Harry Potter. They move. You know, they're not really like haunted, but you know, they move and they talk and stuff.
They're like enchanted.
Yeah, they're enchanted. But mostly like the movies about paintings, about like haunted paintings, were like crazed artists, you know, making these weird paintings, or it's people taking revenge for like different artists, or just paintings being in the background while people are being killed, like specific paintings that people have seen.
Would the picture of Dorian Gray be in there?
Yeah, so I do have that one on my list.
Cool.
So the picture of Dorian Gray, you know, as you guys know, tells the tale of Dorian Gray, who has his youthful beauty preserved in a painting because he just loves his beauty. His outer skin is everything to him, which that's for another day. But so he sells his soul to ensure that his external beauty never fades in this painting. And as he goes on to work, I didn't get the name of the other guy, but the guy that he works with, and like commits sins and like murders and whatnot. Every time that Dorian does something bad, it's portrayed in the painting. So like the changing of the painting was like really cool. And like I read the book in high school, so it wasn't one of my favorites in high school, but like I really like it now, going back to it, you know, after watching The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina and having Dorian Gray in it. I was like, oh, maybe I'll revisit this.
That's really fun.
Yeah. I was like going at this from like the literary angle, so thank you.
Yeah. And then just one more that I wanted to mention is in The Conjuring 2. So in The Conjuring 2...
Conjuring 2!
Yeah, that's where the movie The Nun came from, because they had the painting of the nun where Lorraine was having a vision and she was being attacked by the nun. So I thought that one was like a really big one and something that everybody would recognize.
It is well documented on this podcast that the Conjuring universe is some of the only horror movies that I have watched and I like.
I haven't watched them, but I have seen pictures of The Nun.
I've watched The Nun, The Conjuring 1, and The Conjuring 2. I am familiar with those. But yeah, thank you for bringing us those as well.
Yeah,
let's do highlight and lowlight. Let's start with Julia.
My highlight was definitely when the picture was like passing behind them and Sam had his little freak out. That was just peak comedy to me for whatever reason. God, gosh. I think my low light would be Evelyn dying. That was pretty sad.
Yeah, that was rough. Meredith.
Highlight. I thought it was really funny when Sarah was watching Sam dig a grave.
Yeah.
Just really love it when, like, outsiders are all freaked out at the Winchesters because they're terrifying.
They let her hold the flashlight.
Yeah. Hey, we need your help. You can contribute. Low light, I really love Sarah. She is a lovely character, and I wish she was around more often. But romantic subplots on this show usually make me cringe, and I don't